Are you a licensed ham operator? If so, the American Readout Movement needs your help. To support the mission of keeping the American Readout connected in a Teotwaki situation, Radio Free Readout is working on a project to build a network of patriotic, amateur radio operators who consider themselves readouters. Your skills will be critical in rebuilding and advancing the American Readout Movement after Teotwaki. Please email us at radiofreereadout@gmail.com to find out how you can partner with Radio Free Readout in this critical and time-sensitive project. Your input and ideas are greatly appreciated. Thank you, ham operators, for what you do. Across America, the police state is growing. If you are in law enforcement or in the military and you're a God-fearing, liberty-loving patriot who took your oath to protect and defend the Constitution seriously, and you see training and indoctrination that supports the police state, notify Radio Free Readout at once so we can inform others. You can do this confidentially. Your email and any other information will never be made public without your permission. Remember, if you see something, say something.
Welcome to End Time Talk Radio, where the truth is usually stranger than fiction. The purpose of these shows are not to scare you, but to prepare you, because what you don't know could hurt you. The word says in Hosea 4:6, "My people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge." Thank you for joining us. My name is Julie, and here is the host of the show, Barry Meyer.
First time ever doing a in-house, in the studio, live interview. And I have next to me is Eric Miller, and he's a Cheyenne resident here in Cheyenne, Wyoming. Now, I know him through the Tea Party. Matter of fact, Eric, I met you at a Tea Party.
Yes.
Yeah, over at the Capitol. That was last year. Yeah. And, of course, then we fought against Plan Cheyenne, which we're going to talk about that later because a lot of you guys may not know our fight here in Cheyenne, Wyoming. We had a big fight, which we're still fighting, Eric, aren't we?
Yes, definitely.
And matter of fact, if you guys want to, you can go to plancheyenne.blogspot.com. That's a website or a blogspot that I started to show our fight. And I need to get that on the website. You guys can check that out. But definitely go to plancheyenne.blogspot.com, and you can actually see everything, whether it was when Stacey Lynn was doing the videos, whether it was people talking about things, county commissioners sending things back and forth. You can see our fight that happened here in 2014. Yeah, this whole year's going by fast, Eric. Well, Eric, I guess maybe let people know about yourself first before we kind of get going, because we're going to talk about what happened at your house with smart meters.
Okay, I moved out here in 1994. I moved from the state of Jersey. That was the last place I lived, but I was born and raised in New York City, the Bronx in particular.
Okay.
All right, South Bronx. Tough neighborhood. Just about every borough in New York City has a tough neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I've survived that because I had a very strict upbringing. My mother used to say to me and my two older brothers, and plus I have a younger sister, she had a saying that she would say to us at least once or twice a month, "Now remember, guys, I'm responsible for you until you're 21. After 21, with a smile, she said, you're responsible for me."
Oh, that's good.
And so that's what we lived by.
Yeah.
I got two brothers that retired, high-ranking firemen from the New York City Fire Department.
Wow. How long did they retire, would you say?
Oh, they retired at least 20 years now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And today, before I forget, the date is April 3rd of 2014. I always forget to put the date in there. Go ahead.
Okay. And I have a sister that was a teacher. She taught art down in Arizona on an Indian reservation. She taught Native American art. So we all came out pretty good, unscathed. None of us have a criminal record.
Yeah.
And we've always strived and worked hard to do things right and become productive citizens.
Sure.
And there is a record of that, that we are good citizens.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came out here in 1993, I got involved with the politics because I was sitting home, and I was couch potatoing.
Sure.
And then the mayor was Leo Pando.
I remember him, yeah.
And he said, I'm going to annex you whether you like it or not, pointing to Orchard Valley.
That's the south of Cheyenne, Wyoming.
South Cheyenne, yes. South Cheyenne, Orchard Valley.
And he said that.
He said
really?
That. I got up off that couch and I said, I got to do something about this. The next meeting that was held, all right, a guy named John Hayes was the organizer. I went to that meeting with camera, all right, video camera.
You still have the video?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yeah. And I started videotaping these meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Channel 5 would show up. I believe the news lady then was Susan Chow.
Okay.
And she showed up with pad and paper but no camera, but she seen I was filming it. She went outside, made a phone call, and came back. Before you know it, there was a cameraman starting. Ever since that, they started recording these meetings too.
No, that meeting that was set up, was that kind of like maybe a pre-Tea Party in a way?
Well, no, it was to inform the public in case the person who organized it was John Hayes. He needed to go back and get information. Well, I had it available.
Oh, okay.
See? So tea parties were not even in effect then. No one even knew about the tea parties except for what you read in history.
Sure.
But prior to that, I was not really ever heavy involved in politics. Yes, I did do some pamphlet stuff back in New Jersey, door to door, for the town I lived in.
Yeah.
And yes, I did that, but I never really got deeply involved in politics part of it until then.
Okay.
It was successful. Orchard Valley was not annexed, and either was a few other places that they were talking about annexing.
Mm-hmm.
And thanks to the efforts of John Hayes, he did an excellent job.
Yeah.
And I was just a cameraman, and I had a few words to say. And basically, at that time, I started getting more and more involved. I was involved with the course.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if people remember that. That was Citizens Opposing Spendthrift Taxation.
That was here in Cheyenne, too.
Here in Cheyenne. We defeated the fifth penny.
Okay.
All right, back in the 90s.
Uh-huh.
We defeated the fifth penny because they refused to do a menu-style ballot.
And that's a fifth penny tax.
That's fifth penny tax.
And now we're up to what, 6 penny tax now?
6 penny tax.
Yeah.
And so they went the whole time without a fifth penny tax.
Mm-hmm.
And it really didn't damage anything as far as I'm concerned. There was no changes in anything that went on in the city and whatnot. And so we were successful in that. And then finally, when it came back with a new ballot, it was a menu-style ballot.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So we achieved what we're supposed to, where people could pick and choose what they want to pay their taxes for, rather than for someone to just stand up and say, "You're going to vote for this, and then we're going to spend the money any way we want."
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I got involved into the politics of what's going on.
Yeah.
I lobbied for 7 years in a row. I lobbied in the state capitol.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a paid lobbyist.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I just went there and paid my $5 and got a little badge.
Yeah.
And basically what I was doing was asking questions and getting answers from different legislators and putting my input in and whatnot whenever I could. And there were many things that went on in the Capitol that if you don't know, if you don't lobby or be there to hear what's going on, you'll never know until the bill is passed. With that, let me make it a point, too, that I'm not a paid lobbyist. All right, there are people who are paid lobbyists.
Sure.
And they make a lot of money.
Yeah.
I was asked a few times by certain individuals, why don't you become a paid lobbyist? I said, no, I'm here to be vigilant and watch what's going on. And a lot of people don't understand that you can be a patriot, all right? The only one in the building that's walking around with a flag on their lapel, an American flag on their lapel.
Which I see you have one right there, and you also have the POW.
I've been wearing American flag on my pelt ever since about 1984.
Really?
Because that's when I saw the news media was changing. All right. Now I can say this: in all those years, the only time that I never had a flag on my lapel was last year's Frontiers Day. The last day was on a Sunday, and I was a rush to get to church. Yeah. And I forgot to switch it over to I absolutely felt bad about that. Yeah. And so, and I met up with also Frank, and I said, Frank, you know, I feel bad about something. He says, what? He says, I don't have my flag on. He says, well, that's, you know, don't feel bad about that. That's all right. He says, yeah, but I do, you know. And that's how long I've been wearing the American flag on my lapel. Well,
I know our pastor at our church, he always wears a flag on his lapel too. And you know, it's hard to find people that are really willing to stand for our country. And it's really important to have people like you, because so often, even with my job, it's hard for me to even get away to go down and see what's happening at the legislature down at the Capitol, or we'll see Monday they're going to have a thing on Plan Cheyenne, but I won't be able to make it because of work.
Well, I would like to make it too, but I can't because, you see, as even now, while I sit here and talk to you, there is a nurse type lady sitting with my wife. Yeah, I cannot leave my wife alone. So even when I make town hall meetings and whatnot, it's costing me money. Yeah, you know.
I remember you telling me that.
But I'm a patriotic person. Yeah, right? And I believe in fighting for our constitutional rights. Yes. And so, yes, it's cost me money. Am I a rich person? No, I'm not. I'm very far from rich. Yeah. You know. Yeah. I live on a fixed income, me and my wife, and we do the best we can with what we have. Yeah. All right. But what I've been always trying to tell people that patriotism is one of the things that comes along with your rights. Yes. All right. And if you're not a patriotic person to your country, and if you don't vote, all right, then you don't have anything to complain about.
That's true.
You know. And the reason why I'm a patriotic person, because I know how many men and women had died or came back. You know, they used to have a saying that was going on in the Vietnam War: "Did you come back whole skin?" And because I hired a few of these people that didn't come back whole skin. Yeah. You know, and what I mean by that is that, say, one person, for instance. He lost his eye and got his face all messed up because of a bouncing Betty. Yeah. And
what's a bouncing Betty?
That's a personal mine that bounces up into the air and then it goes off about 4 feet.
Oh, I never heard of one of those. Really?
And yes, his buddy took the blunt of it and got killed, but he got some of it.
Now, were you in the service?
I was in the service, but never in combat.
Now, what were you, like Marines?
No,
Army?
1960.
Okay.
All right, I did not. I was going to re-up. All right, because you have 90 days after discharge, and I was out drinking with the buddies.
Yeah.
And I started tossing my cookies, and there was blood coming. That's when I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease.
Oh, yeah.
And they took me to the hospital, and so that ended my. Because I really did like the military.
Sure.
It's good to serve your country. It's good to do something.
Sure.
And that's why what I do today is giving back something to the country, standing up, fighting for people's rights.
Yeah.
I'll do that until the day I die.
It's hard to find people that are willing to do that now, because there was an old saying I seen, and I need to pull it up, but those who do little now will do even less when it costs them even more.
Yeah.
Something like that. And I might have messed it up, but it's true. You can look at people now that are not willing to do anything. And, when you stood up with like just against the smart meters and stuff, not many people are willing to stand up against that.
Well, for the simple reason that they don't know too much about it. They're not aware of the fact. Do you know that people I've asked if they had a smart meter and they had no knowledge whatsoever, and then they checked on the house and they said, yeah, there's something different. There's a different type of meter.
Yeah.
You think that would send a signal that something is wrong, that the public should be notified. See, the smart meters, all right, are transceivers, all right. So what you heard Mr. Cheeseman say on Channel 5,
which we'll be playing some of those clips here coming up,
is not true. Similar, he uses the word similar. Now the old meters, the old smart meters, all right, that first arrived in the big cities where they had high-rise apartments and whatnot. Well, instead of the man going in there and reading everybody's apartment's meter, all right, the man just went by with a wand, all right, and he read all the meters, and he put it into a computer.
Yeah.
All right, and that's how you got your bill. Yes, it saved them a lot, but they were just receivers. He only received the information from the meter. But the new smart meters are transceivers. Right? They not only receive the information from the meter, all right, but they also go into your house, all right, and read your appliances.
Yep.
Now, I don't know if people are aware of this, but all new appliances will have a smart chip in it.
The Energy Star, right?
And
yeah.
And Cheyenne Light, Fuel, and Power had suggested, they used to have a commercial on, don't tell Aunt so-and-so about this, about her old freezer sitting out in the garage.
Yeah.
We'll give you $100 if you get rid of it and buy a new appliance.
Yeah.
Well, I called that number. Then that number, the person that asked that number referred me to a place down in Colorado. And I said, well, what kind of choice? This was just investigative stuff. What kind of choice do I have in appliances?
How long ago was that, do you think?
That was about 2.5 years ago. More.
Okay.
And they said, nope, only General Electric products.
And there's a lot more in the go ahead. Yeah, that's getting good.
So I said, I turned and said to my wife, now isn't that strange, all right, that it's only one product so far, but this is going to spread, all right, it's going to be in everybody's house.
Yeah.
Now, I also went to a seminar, all right, which will be explains in these documents. I and Emily, we were invited to a seminar, all right, where I asked 3 times questions, all right. I see on your chart, all right, that you have your chart line, all right, and you got a blue line and it says CO2. I know what that means, but what does it mean to you? Well, it was explained to me that just in case in 2014, somewhere around there, cap and trade goes into effect, and I said, you mean cap and tax?
Yeah.
And the person sort of like smirked at me, and he got back to cap and trade. that's what will come into effect. So I says, well, what does that mean then? He says, well, if you use certain appliances like your washer, dishwasher, dryer, clothes washer, between the hours of 2 p.m. and 7 p.m., you will be charged at a different rate on your utility just for those hours and those appliances. So this is not only reading your amount of electricity that you're consuming, all right, which I don't mind paying for. But if I have to pay a different rate for an appliance that I bought and put into my home, and now you're going to charge me a carbon tax because you have proof that I did use it. And I said, you may start off with the hours 2 p.m. to 7 p.m., and then you talk about electric cars, and someone comes home from work at 5 o'clock and plugs their car in. Well, we haven't really talked about that yet, and we're not getting into that situation. But suppose someone comes home and they plug their car in, right? And they say, well, we really haven't thought about that yet, but yes, it might be something in the future that we have to consider and whatnot. Well, this is where smart meters come into your home. Your home, you own it, all right? And they're searching around for appliances. You own appliances too.
Yeah.
And if you use them during the hours that they demand that you're not supposed to use them, basically, they can shut down each and individual appliance because it will have a smart chip in there where they can just shut down the appliance. And I asked them that same question at that meeting, and they just refused to answer. It's just a smirk, like, next question, anybody else?
Yeah.
That sort of thing. But I want to tell you something that's extremely important when it comes to demonizing somebody. At that meeting, standing over my right shoulder was Sheriff Glick.
And we're going to play some stuff that he talked about here later.
With Sheriff Glick. Now, I want to ask the public, why was the sheriff at a meeting standing over my right shoulder if as though I'm a criminal? And there was a seat empty on each side of me. And
he's a sheriff of Laramie County here in Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Yes.
Which he still is to this day.
Yes, he is. Yes.
Yeah.
And I find that so erroneous, and I find that so demonizing.
Yeah.
And also the fact that he was the one that gave the okay for the deputy to come along with 3 Cheyenne light fuel workers and intimidate my wife.
Yeah.
He says in that recording, it's Mrs. Miller's perception of what intimidation is. Now, my wife and I were both in our 70s.
Yeah.
Now, even as a man, if 4 people show up at my door and one has a gun and badge, I would feel intimidated. Could you imagine what a frail woman felt like? That is outrageous. And then to even demonize you more, once they put the meter in, they put a lock and an extra tag on it. That is demonizing somebody.
Yeah, I seen that on the video, and we'll play that video because people need to see and hear. That's why we're having you talk, because so often I've heard you call KGAB, and so often with them, and it's not to demonize them or nothing, but they only give you so much time because they got so many callers, and this is why we want to have you come on, because you really need to talk about what's really going on, which you are now.
Yes, and I'm going to show you something. You don't have to mention what this is, all right? That I am an outstanding citizen. I don't have what it's on for, but all right. But to demonize me, and like the sheriff says, sometimes we have to send somebody out, a deputy out with the Cheyenne light fueling workers in case of hostilities and whatnot.
Sure.
Well, here's my good conduct card. All right?
I have one too.
Okay.
Yep.
That's my good conduct card, and I carry this. All right. And not that I want to carry a a firearm, I'll just come out and say it because that's what this card is.
Yeah.
Is that just because you come out of the South Bronx, everybody thinks you must have a criminal background.
Sure.
This is not so. This is my second one.
Mm-hmm.
This is federal clearance.
Yeah.
All right. This is not local clearance. This is federal background check.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Saying that Eric Miller is a good citizen.
And I joined you on that too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So this whole thing, when they demonize you and put a lock on your meter, if as though you're going to tamper with it, all right, and which I would never do, and I told them that at the meeting at Cheyenne Light Fuel and Power, that I would never do anything to tamper with your meter or anything like that. That is out of the question, you know. But to demonize you, they put a lock on your meter. And then when you go to a meeting, seminar put on them, they have the sheriff standing over your back, and everybody thinks that you're a criminal.
Yeah.
There's no one sitting on each side. There's a chair on the right side is me empty, a chair on the left side is me empty, and there's people standing.
Yeah. Did he ever touch you or talk to you? Okay.
Oh yeah, we spoke, but that's the first time I got the real sense of basically what he was about.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, no, what I hear is that if the federal government decided to come into our county, he would let them roll on in.
That was said on Channel 5.
Yeah.
You know, I wish I could have. I wish I recorded that and whatnot, and so I could played it back, but I didn't.
Yeah.
But there are several people who did see it, and he said that he would not interfere with the feds if they came into his county, and the other 22 county sheriffs are in agreement.
With him?
Yes.
That's
the statement.
In all of Wyoming.
In all of Wyoming.
But you know what gets me about Eric is you got the sheriffs down in Colorado that are standing against the federal government. You got people in Wyoming that are going for the federal government. What's up with that?
I can't explain that because, you see, we're supposed to be the most conservative state in the union.
Yeah.
We're a cowboy state.
Yep.
We even have it on our license plate, a buck and bronco. You know,
Yeah.
Our state flag is a buffalo. All right?
Mm-hmm.
We're the high plains state. The buffalo roam the high plains. You know, and we're the most conservative state. We have Frontiers Day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and as we get into more conversation about Plan Cheyenne, I'll explain a little bit more about that. But the fact is why I moved to the state of Wyoming is because it was the most conservative state.
Yeah, it's just crazy that, you know, here we are in a place where it's least populated.
Yeah.
You know, people are pretty friendly around here.
I like the people in Wyoming.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, where can you walk out of the door and someone says good morning to you, and you say good morning back, and someone says how are you, and then you realize that you're in for a long conversation. As soon as you say how are you, they're going to tell you.
Oh, sure.
And I like that. Though,
oh, yeah.
right? Yes, it is time consuming if you're in a rush, but that's the nature of a lot of the Wyoming people.
Yeah.
And I like Wyoming. I love Wyoming. That's why I moved here.
Yeah. It almost makes you want to move to Montana if things keep going like they are.
Yeah, I just don't understand why. And the fact is, all right, we are an energy state. Minerals.
Oh, yeah.
Low sulfide coal. All right. There are two places in the world. Wyoming and some parts of Montana. Low sulfide coal.
Yeah.
Petroleum.
Oh, yeah.
The high-grade stuff. No? We're buying... The United States is buying low-grade stuff off of China, but we got the high-grade stuff.
Yeah.
Uranium.
Mm-hmm.
We gave rights... Federal government gave rights for the Russians to mine uranium.
And they're doing it right now.
And they're doing it right now.
And we got... Yeah.
Natural gas gave rights for China to mine natural gas in the state of Wyoming.
Isn't that crazy? And I just heard there's a town in Alabama because they're so broke now, they're giving the whole town over to China.
Yes.
Is that crazy?
Yes. It's just, everybody thinks that this is fear-mongering and whatnot. What I have to say to the public, all right?
Mm-hmm.
You're too complacent.
Yep.
All right? You take for granted that everything will work its way out somehow or the other. No, everything will work its way out if you stand up for your rights. All right? And I can go into rights as far as the Second Amendment, and that's a whole different...
And maybe we'll have to do that. We'll have to have you come on and talk about rights, because people probably don't understand all that. They might hear stuff. I listened to a show today, and they were talking about, the different rights, but so often people just say it, but they don't really know it.
Right, yeah. And that's because they're complacent, all right? And being complacent, all right, puts us into another category that a lot of people don't know anything about, and they don't know about what their kids are learning because
Common Core.
Yeah. All right? Common Core. My God, if you don't learn the Constitution, if you don't learn the history of this country, all right, if you don't learn world history, guess what? You will not have the preventive maintenance for the survival of this nation in the future.
True.
And we have to depend upon, all right, because we, right now, we fight so hard to preserve the Constitution of the United States for our children and our grandchildren. Now, they have to pick up that fight sometime in the future, because freedom is not free.
True.
By no sin. I mean, even if you look on the back of a dollar bill, all right, you have a pyramid that's not completely seen, and above it is the all-seeing eye, all right? My interpretation of that, I'm not going to get in deep into religion,
Sure.
right? That is the eye of the Lord,
Yeah.
all right? The pyramid is never complete because it's an ongoing effort to hold your rights.
Yeah.
And that's what the pyramid stands for.
Yeah.
So when we look at different things and we study history, and because I study history and I learned in school when they were teaching Constitution, the Bill of Rights, we didn't get into the Federalist Papers because it was getting complicated and whatnot. That would have been another course in high school. But the whole fact is that what are kids learning in school, and what are parents? Do parents question their kids? What did you learn today, Johnny or Jane?
Yeah.
Are they asking that real hard question?
Sure.
And if the parent is complacent, all right, they're going to be pretty happy on the way they live and not worry about what's coming down the pike, because it is coming down the pike. All right, we are the oldest republic in history. All right, why are we the oldest republic in history? It's because of our Constitution.
Yeah.
All right, it makes us the oldest republic in history, and because we're the first country flag that represents we the people and its Constitution. Every other country before the United States, their flag was for emperor, a king, princes, princesses, and duchess and dukes and whatnot. They were banners, basically.
Yeah.
But we're the first country in the world, all right, that flew a flag and still is flying the flag, all right, with the public power.
Yeah.
That flag represents we the people.
People.
No other country had that.
Yeah.
Some countries tried to duplicate and go along without type of government. And I'll give you a perfect example. When the wall was up, you had East Germany, West Germany. All right, the DDR and the DFR. All right. Now the DDR stood for the Deutsche Democrat Republic. Well, you figure that's West Germany. No, that's East Germany.
Yeah.
The DFR, the Deutsche Federal Republic, was West Germany.
Oh, okay.
So you see, they were saying that, like the United States, we're a federal republic. Okay? But East Germany was saying, no, we're a Democrat republic. That's the difference.
Oh.
See? So.
Huh. You know, that's really interesting. I never heard that before. Before I forget, maybe we should hit a couple of those clips and show people that how you were fighting against what was being encroached on you and your personal property.
Right.
If you want to put your headphones on, and I'll let you listen to this clip here. It's going to be a few minutes here, and we have about 5 or 6 clips. And Eric's just going to go ahead and talk about each clip, what was kind of going on, what they said was true, what wasn't. So I'm going to go ahead and play this first clip here. And this is actually a news station here in Cheyenne, Wyoming.
One resident says Cheyenne Light, Fuel and Power threatened him for refusing installation of the company's new meters because he believes they're unsafe. News 13's Catherine Bilkey talks with the man who says officials threatened to shut off his utilities if he doesn't comply.
Eric Miller is in his late 60s, but he still tries to stay on top of new technology. And when it comes to smart meters, he says no thanks.
They've been out here several times to say that they're going to change out the meter, all right? But I've been doing homework on it ever since someone had told me about the danger of these meters. You know, how they're unhealthy.
Cheyenne Light, Fuel and Power, according to the company's website, began installation of AMI smart meters last June. Officials at the company would not comment on Miller's specific situation because of privacy restraints with individual accounts. But a spokeswoman says they definitely believe the meters are safe. According to the company, they've been using similar technology in the area since 1994, and they have not had any issues or problems. A project manager says they operate off of 900 megahertz, which is a common signal for the cordless telephone. Still, Miller is standing by his beliefs, despite what he says are threats.
I've never once in my life been late on a utility bill in my entire life.
Miller says officials have told him if he doesn't allow installation, he'll lose utilities in his Cheyenne home in early January.
That means I'll have no heat, I'll have no light, no telephone, and then I have to turn off my own water to keep the pipes from freezing and breaking. So basically, they do that, they condemn my home.
But Miller says he won't back down. If the utilities go, he says he'll find the money to put his wife up in a hotel. Catherine Wilkie, News 13 in Cheyenne.
Stay with News 13 for updates on this story later this week.
Eric,
Yes.
You know, this was quite a fight that you had to fight with the smart meters, and I'm really glad you had the TV stations. You know, you recorded them, and this is back in 2010. What was said on there that was correct? What was said on there that was wrong?
Okay. First of all, he says similar.
You can take your headphones off too.
Okay. First of all, he said similar to meters they've been using for years, right? The meters that they've been using that are similar, all right, were the type of meters where a man in a truck went around with a wand and read the meters.
Yes.
They started that sort of thing in the big cities, and of course it does save the utilities lots of money, because for a person to walk into a high-rise apartment and read 30, 40, 50 meters, all right, is time-consuming. So they were able to, right outside the building with a wand, and just read the consumption of each resident in that building. Now, the difference is with the new smart meters is that these meters are transceivers. The old meters are not transceivers. All right? Transceiver meters, that means they can communicate with that meter and send messages, all right, into your home to check on appliances that have smart chips in. In the future, all appliances are going to have smart chips in.
Yeah.
The other thing about smart meters is that they piggyback off each other. They send signals from one meter to another to a collector meter,
Yeah.
which sends the signal to a satellite. See, not each and every individual meter sends a signal to the satellite. It's got to go through your house, all right? And with that RF energy beefed up in order to make it through all the walls in your house to get to your neighbor's meter,
Yeah.
that's what I am afraid of.
Well, and the thing that gets me is I've been studying for ham radio, tests and stuff.
Sure.
And one of the things they talk about is radiated energy that comes off an antenna. And
Yes.
one of the things you have to be concerned about is where people are at in conjunction with your antenna. Because if they're too close, you can actually get burned.
Yes.
Now, what I've heard a lot of, and I think it even happened to me when we lived in a town with a smart meter, was I'd get really sick, like major bad headaches. And I've heard people having that happen.
Well, you see, I started looking up on information on the internet, especially YouTube. If everybody just goes on YouTube and types in smart meters, all right, and effects, all right, there are so many studies out there, and this is not fear-mongering. They talked about the effects that it could have on small children, infants, adults with different illnesses. My main objection at the time when I wanted to refuse it is that I have a mechanical titanium apparatus in my back, and I also have a stainless steel disc in my neck from a car accident. All right? And from reading about this on the internet is that my metal parts in my body, they start to act like a antenna themselves.
Yeah.
All right? Because these meters, all right, they have to beef up the energy. And I was told by Cheyenne Light and Fuel and Power, well, it's only comparable to a cell phone. Well, my cell phone does not go to your cell phone, and your cell phone goes to another cell phone to get through the walls and whatnot. That signal I get from my cell phone is from the cell tower, period. But what happens here is that when these things piggyback, and they told me at the meeting that I had that the most we would piggyback is 20 meters, which is false. They're talking about, if you go on YouTube, you'll find out they're talking about hundreds of meters that will piggyback. Because you got to remember, it saves them money if they have a collector meter. All right. Now, if you put a collector meter for every 20 meters, all right, that means a multi-story apartment house that has more than 20 meters, that apartment house would have a collector meter that sends a signal to the satellites. Now, that does not seem practical, all right? That does not seem to be a smart way to do things. You'd be investing a lot of money in a satellite transmitter. All right, and up to the satellite. And, of course, bogging down a satellite itself with information becomes a problem.
Oh, sure. Sure.
So what I'm saying is that when they tell you, well, the most we'd ever piggyback is 20 meters, it's false.
Yeah. Well, let me play another clip here of things, because this was really interesting that you actually had these recorded, because you actually have a documentation, and then you're here personally talking about it, so you actually have. And
I also have written documentation, all right, which two senators, my House representative, and at the time, my state House representative also has a copy, and I got the postage, for that, because it was special delivery and signed for. All right, that's so that no one can deny that they didn't get it.
I'll have to find a way of putting that on the internet so they can conjoin with that YouTube video that I'll have up. Well, if you want to put those on, you can listen again, and we'll play some more of this, what's going on, for people to really understand the whole issue that you were dealing with, and how the news really cut out a lot.
And Cheyenne Light, Fuel and Power recently finished installing the new smart meters, which are used to send customer usage information wirelessly to the company's computer system, reducing the need for service personnel to access customers' electric meters on a regular basis. They also allow for additional information related to electric load at a particular location.
And those new smart meters are now causing quite the controversy between Cheyenne Light and two Cheyenne residents.
That's right. One claims Cheyenne Light, Fuel and Power is threatening to cut off his utilities, but both say they don't want the new meters installed. News Channel 5's Kara Hammer has more.
Because I refuse to have mine change, they have threatened to cut off my utilities by January 4th.
Cheyenne resident Eric Miller says he does not want Cheyenne Light Fuel and Power's new smart meter installed at his home. He claims it gives off too much radiation, something that automated meter systems administrator John Cheeseman says is not true.
Does the smart meter emit radiation?
No. It works on a 900 megahertz RF signal, which is very, very similar to the cell phones that most people carry, okay? And it's a very low power.
But Cheyenne resident Frank Smith disagrees.
I'm no expert on cordless telephones, and frankly, I don't have a cordless telephone going 24 hours a day. Perhaps if I did, I would find health concerns.
Cheyenne Light Fuel and Power says they put customer safety first and foremost.
It would be in direct conflict with our philosophy in serving our customers to bring in something that was unsafe.
But Miller and Smith claim they shouldn't have to have the new smart meter.
We should be under no obligation to change to the new meter.
And Miller claims he was threatened by 2 Cheyenne Light Fuel and Power employees who told him they would turn off his utilities.
I just don't understand how someone can be threatened, all right, if they broke no laws.
But customer service supervisor Monica Puente says his claims are untrue.
Have you ever threatened to cut off anybody's utilities?
Absolutely not.
And she says the reason employees go 2 at a time is for the efficiency of getting the job done.
They go out in a team capacity in order to facilitate the exchange as seamlessly as possible to the customer so that there isn't any over-intrusion of staying on someone's property any longer than they're comfortable with.
Puente says if an employee is accused of threatening a customer, then an investigation would be conducted on a case-to-case basis. Cheyenne Light Fuel and Power also told News Channel 5 they will not cut off utilities to Miller's home and are trying to come to a resolution. Reporting for your station, Kara Hammer, CBS News Channel 5.
And Miller and Smith met with Cheyenne Light Fuel and Power employees today to discuss what will happen next. Miller says he hopes they will leave his meter alone, and a Cheyenne Light Fuel and Power spokesperson says the discussion was successful, but whether or not Miller will receive a smart meter is ongoing.
Eric,
Yes.
Okay, so this guy, John Cheeseman, he said that there's no radiation coming out of him, but we hear...
The word's similar.
Yeah.
All right, similar to a cell phone.
Yeah.
Right? Know what else is similar to a cell phone? A walkie-talkie.
Yeah, true.
All right. What else is similar to a cell phone? Well, even a wire phone.
Yeah.
It's a phone.
Sure.
All right. The word similar, all right, should be an alert to everybody. All right. He's saying it's like.
Mm-hmm.
It's not exactly like.
Yeah.
All right. Now, he was one of the persons that I had a meeting with. The other one was John Siraki.
Mm-hmm.
And both of them had said in front of me before I left that meeting, we shook each other's hands, looked each other in the eye. We will not do anything until after the first of the year, after we have a meeting on these premises, meaning Cheyenne Light Fuel and Power facility. Well, that turned out to be untrue.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing about the bait of questioning about what you just saw on Channel 5,
Mm-hmm.
This woman, Monica Puentes,
Mm-hmm.
I've never met.
Yeah.
I've never spoken to her on the phone. So the question was baited so that, yes, she never did threaten to cut off my electricity because I never did meet the woman.
Yeah.
So that is a baited thing. And also they mentioned that Frank and I both had the meeting. They would not let Frank in plus 8 others into the meeting, even though I waived my rights.
And Frank was even running for county commissioner here 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, a couple of years ago, yeah. Well, about a year, about 2 years, yeah.
Now, this lady Monica, now, is she still with Cheyenne Light?
I have no idea. I never met the woman. I never spoke to the woman. I don't hold her in any ill will because, as you can see, the way the question was baited and cut, all right? Yes, and with the smile, she says, no, I never threatened Mr. Milk to cut off his utilities.
Yeah.
Well, she's telling the truth because we never spoke.
Yeah. Now, what about John Cheeseman? Is he with Cheyenne Light still?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. and John Siraki. There were 3 people in that room. There was John Siraki, John Cheeseman, and myself.
Okay.
All right. And before that meeting was over, all right, they wanted to apologize to my wife by sending her a basket of fruit, as I state here in the document.
They wanted to send a basket of fruit.
Yeah.
It's almost like...
apologize, and I told them, no, don't even go there.
Yeah.
All right. I state it right here in this document.
Mhm.
All right, because that's an insult. You know, after what you've done, and you threatened to. Now, they deny, of course, that we were ever threatened.
Yeah.
All right. Even at the seminar that Emily and I went to, they called in the 2 workers that threatened me, and they denied it in front of their boss, Mr. Cheese, I believe.
And Emily, he's the county commissioner here now. Still,
he's now the county commissioner.
He wasn't back then.
But
yeah.
How do you explain me calling the police when they threatened me?
Yeah.
All right. Now wait a minute. If there are 2 guys there threatening me, all right, and I call the police, all right, and like in the statement, a deputy shows up, a woman deputy shows up, which was very nice and very polite, and was taken and was listening. Then all of a sudden, another car pulls up with 2 deputies in it.
Yeah.
And you could actually see, you know, you can read body language. You can actually see the 2 Cheyenne light fuel power workers actually braced themselves and refixed themselves as tough guys. You know.
Now we got deputies here.
Now we got 3 deputies against me, and I'm wondering, why do they need 3 deputies? Because the 1 deputy woman was handling the situation just fine.
Yeah.
And I asked them to repeat what you say you would do. And I said, repeat that you threatened to cut off my electricity. And I said to them, as in the documents, that you see those signs? I have a privacy fence. No trespassing, you know, posted, you know. And he said, and one of them smartly said, we don't even have to go up in your yard or in your house. We can go right up that pole over there and disconnect your electricity. I said, so be it.
Yeah.
I left and went into the house, and I called KGAB. John Threathaway was substituting for Dave
that day.
That day.
Okay.
All right. And I told him what just happened. It was the last few minutes of the show, and in that time, 2 people had called in and said, I find that incredible, you know, that they would do something like that, threaten people. But the idea is that they deny threatening me.
Yeah.
Then they have to explain, why did we call the sheriff? They'd have to explain that.
Yeah.
You know, they can't.
You know, it's just amazing. Let me play another clip here. I'll have you put the headphones on, and I'll go ahead and start, and then you can comment on what happened there, too, with that news story.
Residents show up at Cheyenne Fuel, Light, and Power today to support Eric Miller, the man who claims the utility company threatened to shut off his power if he didn't comply with the new metering system. Miller sat down today with company officials in a closed meeting. He did not want the new smart meter installed at his home because of safety concerns. Other Cheyenne residents are unhappy with the way Cheyenne Light, Fuel, and Power have handled the situation.
Actually, they came in on me and asked my wife if they could go out there and look at the poles, and then they switched the meters out. I stopped them in my driveway, and they refused to put the meters back on. So we're here to ask Cheyenne Light, Fuel, and Power just what's going on and what's the extent of this.
A spokeswoman for the company responded to a trespassing complaint by saying a utility company is not trespassing when they are attempting to maintain the infrastructure that provides electricity to a customer base for matters of safety, service, and maintenance of equipment.
So, okay, now there was support. What was going on in that clip?
Okay, what was going on in that clip? You seen people entering Cheyenne Light, Fuel, and Power in their facility, all right? They would not let any of them attend the meeting. Those were the 9 people, all right, and plus Emily Hasenhauer, all right, who is now county commissioner, all right? They wouldn't let him in either. And I waived my rights in front of them. I said, in front of you, I just want to ask one question. Am I allowed to tape this meeting? No, you can't. Can these people come in? no, this meeting is just for you. I said, I waive my rights because this has nothing to do with records of payment or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, which I'm never been late on or no, you know, anything like that. So I waive my rights. Oh no, can't. This meeting's set up for you. And so I was the only one that attended that meeting with the two people that I mentioned, John Cheeseman and John Siraki.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and in there was a lot of discussion and, you know, how these meters are not harmful and all that. And I asked questions like, how come there was never a public meeting on this? What's the big rush to sneak these meters in? All right, and so I looked at this as, you know, if you have nothing to hide and you just want to show me how the meters work, all right, why not let 9 others in to explain it to them too?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we'll have a better understanding, but that's not the case. And I was also accused, I was the last person holding up the whole new meter system.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you the reason why they needed to get these in a rush. The mother company, Black Hills Energy,
Mm-hmm.
got something like $65 million. Emily can bear
From the government, right?
From the government.
Federal grant
Stimulus
money. There we go.
Stimulus money. Cheyenne Light and Fuel Power, they got $6 million of that.
They take the money. You got to do what the government says, right?
That's right. And Emily has been on the radio consistently during that time explaining that you tell me how all those meters add up to $6 million.
Yeah.
They wouldn't. No one would ever get back to him on that. He said it plenty of times on radio. He wanted to get into that meeting. They would not let him in that meeting. Plus, him and 8 others, it was 9 altogether, that they would not attend that meeting. And like what they said on the other channel, Channel 5, that Frank and I attended that meeting. No, Frank was not allowed in,
Mm-hmm.
just I. All right? And as you can see, the people pouring through the door, those were the people that were denied. And they were also basically threatened, if you got a complaint, you ought to go see the city, because it's the city. City is in partnership with Cheyenne Light, Fuel and Power, and getting us in and all this other stuff. And this is what was told to me, because I was not out there, and they were they were threatened to be removed if they don't leave the building.
How much of TV5 and other stations that interviewed you, how much did they cut out, and did they really listen to you?
Well, I believe Channel 13
out of Casper.
Yeah.
Okay.
Was very honest and with the time,
Mm-hmm.
even though, as you notice, nobody from Cheyenne Light, Fuel and Power would appear on their interview. Only words, see, were spoken. This is what we're told. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Where Channel 5, they went to some very elaborate stuff to be perfectly frank, disingenuous with the public.
Sure.
Yeah. So.
Wow.
That's.
Well, let me go ahead and play another clip, because I think this is very interesting, because it tells a story of what happened to you with you and your wife at your house here. Yeah. And I don't know if we mentioned it, but you live outside in the county, not in the city.
Yes, I live in the county. Yes.
Yeah. And so they were trying to say that you lived in the city.
Well, that's what they were trying to say. That we're putting this in, and I'm the only one left that's holding up the whole works. That was said to me.
But there was other people that were against it too.
They showed up. You
Yeah.
seen them going through the door, but they were not allowed to attend the meeting.
And they weren't interviewed on the TV station. It made it look like you were the only person.
Right. I'm the only one and the last one to hold out and getting these meters put in.
But there was a whole lot more people.
Oh, yes.
Huh. Let's go play another clip, because this is getting interesting.
Well, Cheyenne Light, Fuel and Power recently finished installing the new smart meters, which are used to send customer usage information wirelessly to the company's computer system, reducing the need for service personnel to access customers' electric meters on a regular basis. They also allow for additional information related to electric load at a particular location. And those new smart meters are now causing quite the controversy between Cheyenne Light and 2 Cheyenne residents. One claims Cheyenne Light, Fuel and Power is threatening to cut off his utilities, and also says he doesn't want the new meters installed. News Channel 5's Kara Hammer has more.
because I refuse to have mine change, they have threatened to cut off my utilities by January 4th.
Cheyenne resident Eric Miller says he does not want Cheyenne Light Fuel and Power's new smart meter installed at his home. He claims it gives off too much radiation, something that Automated Meter Systems Administrator John Cheeseman says is not true.
Does the smart meter emit radiation?
No. It works on a 900 megahertz RF signal, which is very, very similar to the cell phones that most people carry, okay? And it's a very low power.
But Cheyenne resident Frank Smith disagrees.
I'm no expert on cordless telephones, and frankly, I don't have a cordless telephone going 24 hours a day. Perhaps if I did, I would find health concerns.
Cheyenne Light Fuel and Power says they put customer safety first and foremost.
It would be in direct conflict with our philosophy in serving our customers to bring in something that was unsafe.
But Miller and Smith claim they shouldn't have to have the new smart meter.
We should be under no obligation to change to the new meter.
And Miller claims he was threatened by 2 Cheyenne Light Fuel and Power employees who told him they would turn off his utilities.
I just don't understand how someone can be threatened, all right?
Okay. Now, as you can see, now this is after I called the space station and spoke to Bob Shehart and told him that the first broadcast was inaccurate. You said that Eric Miller and Frank Smith attended the meeting at Cheyenne Light Fuel and Power.
Mm-hmm.
And now, as you see the correction that she states that Mr. Miller attended the meeting.
Yeah.
You know,
so that now they're backtracking, or
now they're backtracking. Well, that was I could say that I could have let it go as broadcast originally, and just turned around and accused them of being not telling the truth. But this bears it out, all right? That whole thing with Cara Hammer and Cheyenne Light Fuel and Power, and actually going to people in Cheyenne Light Fuel and Power and interviewing them, all right, was it's basically cut and paste and staged, and let's put it this way, that the previous newsreel, it says Eric Miller and Frank Smith.
Yeah.
Now it's been corrected. It's just Eric Miller. Okay?
That's kind of,
So, and I'd actually done them a favor by doing that, because I could have let it go on as a lie and then come out in the end and say, well, you people are not being truthful, because there was only one person in that meeting. But I didn't. When I spoke to Bob Shehart, I explained as much as I could to him what took place.
Mm-hmm.
And he basically said, well, she covered the news, and this is her broadcast.
And so he kind of washed his hands of it then.
Yeah, it's so, and when we and Frank were there, all right, she first starts off the conversation. You're talking about a reputable company, and I and Frank says something. Yeah, right. And I just put my head in my hand and like, man, But what I'm trying to say is that accuracy in news, all right, it just proves that I did try to correct it, and that explains it. But then again, the rest of it is just like, oh no, I never threatened him. Well, she didn't.
Well, and they said that they had 2 employees go out, but they never mentioned about the deputies being put out there too.
No. Well, see, that's the other thing. When she says 2 employees, how do you explain 3 employees and a deputy? That's 4 people, one with a gun and a badge.
Yeah, and so...
Now, let me explain something about that, all right?
Okay.
I wasn't home. My wife was downstairs. She was working on a computer. She heard these footsteps, so she peeked through the blinds. To hear the guy from Cheyenne Light Fuel and Power say, he's home. I just seen him peep through the blinds. Now,
really?
Yeah. Now, that's an old trick, all right? That's an old trick that I knew they used back east. That's to get the officer to put his hand on his gun. he's dangerous.
Oh, I see. Okay,
Right?
okay.
That's an old trick, all right? So now he feels as though he's got to protect somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what they did. Now, when I had a meeting in Mike Enzie's office, all right?
Which he's
what's called,
state senator. I mean, state senator.
Yeah. State senator.
Yeah.
For the
Wyoming here.
Wyoming for the federal government.
Yeah.
Federal senate. Well, anyway, there was a guy there, Joe, and I said in front of Mike Enzie wasn't there, but his person that takes care of what's called. I said, and we had people sitting around. Larry Lone was there. Brad.
Harrington?
Harrington was there. He was recording it, as a matter of
Yeah.
fact, and I was recording some of it too. But here's the thing. I took Joe's hand and I put it in front of my face and I said, now, you tell me, all right, that you cannot see a difference in melanoma here.
Yeah.
Now, for him to say I was home and peeped through the shutters, through the blinds, was an absolute lie. Now, the other thing is, my wife called me. I was up in Walmart, and I have receipts showing that I was there at that time because I was picking up medicine for my Crohn's disease.
Mm-hmm.
And when I spoke to that deputy, he used his authoritative voice, you better, or else.
Really?
All right? Now, me not saying to my wife, hey, I'm thinking now. Then I asked the deputy another question. Does anybody have papers? And he says, what do you mean? I says, do you have a warrant to come upon my property? Or does Cheyenne Light Fuel and Power have a warrant? You got to remember, we're in negotiation, I told the deputy.
Mm-hmm.
And the deputy says, I don't care basically what you're in, all right? I'm here. I said, well, who sent you? He says, my sergeant.
Mm-hmm.
And so I say to him, well, how could you come upon someone's property, all right, without issuing a warrant, especially when we're in negotiation?
Yeah.
He had nothing to say about that. He says, all I know is that you better comply. So I said, put my wife back on. I told my wife, look, I know what they're prepared to do, and this would kill you. Because if you refuse, he's going to tell you to turn around, put the cuffs on you, and march you right out.
Man.
Now, if that's not intimidation, I don't know what is.
And you're not even home.
And I'm not even home. And you have to say to yourself, and like I explained to Danny Glick on the radio, that was the time that the deputy should have said, you got to take this to court. He should have up and left and said, I'm out of here.
Mm-hmm.
There's no threat here. And as I proved before, I'm not a threat to anybody. I've got a perfect civil record.
Yeah.
I mean, this, things like this, they sometimes they boggle your mind.
Mm-hmm.
How can this happen? And so I tell my wife, you cannot lift the two bars on the gate. They're two big wooden planks. One is a 2x6, and the other one is probably an 8x6 bar.
Mm-hmm.
All right? And so the deputy had to go through the house and go out there and lift it and let them in.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, well, because she just had a back operation.
Oh, yeah.
And we explained that, in the documents.
Yeah.
As you know, I documented it very well, and this I will put my hand on the Bible and say, so help me God, this happened.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it did happen. And for the sheriff to say later on, after my wife had sent him a letter and asked him to comply, and he says it right there on the radio, and you will hear it when you get around to playing that,
mm-hmm.
is that the reason why I didn't comply is because the county attorney told me not to comply because there might be a lawsuit involved. But at the end of the tape, he even interrupts a commercial break, says, no, Dave, let me just say one thing. Eric and I, we've been good friends for a long time, and he knows he can come and speak to me anytime he wants. Now, wait a minute.
Yeah.
He just got finished telling the public that he was warned not to have any contact with us.
And
now
now
he says he can come and speak to me anytime. And I said, and you'll hear me say, can I bring some witnesses?
Mm-hmm.
No answer.
Yep.
You know, you can hear him say that he did a investigation, in-house investigation. Can I get a copy? No answer.
Mm-hmm.
No answer.
Wow.
And you can also hear, I hate to put Dave down, but if the host of the show has to finish the sheriff's sentences because he's stuck,
yeah.
there's something wrong.
Sure. That's true, because
definitely wrong.
the sheriff should be able to say his.
He's a big man. He's the sheriff. He should be able to answer the questions, not the host.
Yeah, and that's true. I remember I had called him up, I don't know, about a year ago or something, and this is totally off, but I was basically, Sheriff Richard Mack.
Yeah.
And I can't remember something about, something about standing with him and this and that,
Right. Him refusing to let federal officers into his community.
And he told me basically in so many words that, I don't really quite agree with him and, this and that. Of course, he's the head of the National Sheriff Association.
Yeah.
And
Western Assurance.
Western. And when David retired here in January, I think it was, the last day, where did Sheriff Danny get called? From Washington, D.C.
Right.
And how many times has he called the show from D.C.?
Well, when I called him about being threatened the first time, all right, he was down, and you'll hear him say it on the radio, I was down in D.C. when I received his call.
Oh.
And that was true.
Yeah.
He was down in D.C. And then when he got to the airport, he called me. When he got down in DIA and called me, he said, you give me some time to get up to the office and we'll have further comment. And we did. And his answer was, his answer was, well, I would have done things differently.
Uh-huh.
I still today don't know what that means.
Huh.
All right.
Yeah.
But the fact still remains, all right, that he is, a sheriff is the only elected police officer in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing that, when he says that he will not interfere with federal, well, I believe. Many other people heard and seen this on Channel 5 too.
Yeah.
But the whole thing here is that why would he go through all the trouble and with Cheyenne Light, Fuel, and Power, not only to get the meters in, but also demonize me at the same time?
What if he's getting some money in the back?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I cannot say. I cannot say that. I cannot say.
But we can speculate on issues, maybe.
I can speculate. There are many PACs out there for campaign funds and stuff like that. That's just speculation. But when I go to a seminar, all right, and the sheriff is standing over my right-hand shoulder, and there's an empty seat on each side of me, that is telling all those people in that room that this guy is there, he's a criminal, and if need be, we need space to get at him. I need space to get at him.
Yeah.
What else could it possibly represent?
I mean, what else would you think? Yeah.
Yeah, what else? What else would the public think? That, is this guy does he have an ankle thing on him or what?
Yeah.
Why is he there?
Yeah. Well, he's not being friendly, pow with you or nothing like that. He's just standing there.
He's just standing there. He acts like a friend and everything, and all that. Even at the Lincoln Day dinner, I had to sit at the table with him. I don't know why it was arranged that way, but why do I have to sit? And then he makes sort of like sly remarks. Well, Eric, and the smart meters.
Yeah.
But I just kept control because I'm the type of person that does keep control. Right? I learned that from an early age. All right, from where I came from, my background. That you can open up your mouth and you get yourself in trouble, and then you're out of control.
Sure.
All right. So, but I learned a lot of things, but there's one thing I didn't learn and never think would happen, that I come all the way out here to Wyoming and to be demonized by law enforcement. You know?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what's going on. That was what was going on. I was being demonized. The extra tag and the lock on my meter, what does that tell the public? That tells the public that I'm going to do something to their meters.
Yeah, I think this next clip actually will play. I think that does show. I think that might show the. We'll go ahead and play that.
Okay.
Well, that's interesting. And the lock was on there.
Now, yes, the lock was on it, as you can see. And again, they invited interested party to meet with them one-on-one. Why not hold a public seminar and explain to them about these meters? Why does it have to be one-on-one? Now, also note this other thing, too, all right? Dave Chafin himself had invited them to come on his program, and Dave said this on radio. They refused to come on his program, but if he wants to come down there by himself, they can have an interview. Come to Dave Chafin, go to their place, they can talk.
Wow.
And Dave mentioned that a few times, that he invited them to come on and explain what's going on with the smart meters. They never did.
You know, that's just messed up that, the opportunity, so often you hear opportunities like this, but they don't jump at it.
Yeah.
Let me go ahead and just play this last clip here.
Okay.
All right, so all those clips, it was nice, that you had all those news clips that people could actually see what your, what's happening with you.
Yeah. Well, as you can see, all right, there again they state that the company invited people one-on-one to what's called, why one-on-one?
Mm-hmm.
There you can see the lock on my meter, all right, that's to demonize me, all right. I would say that Channel 13 did their very best to follow up and do what they can. But as you notice, they could never get someone from Cheyenne Light, Fuel, and Power to talk on their news.
Mm-hmm.
All right? So that should tell you something about the hidden agenda to get these meters in and to cut off, keep the public in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
All right? I have a friend that, he's passed away, and he used to always have a saying, when they start to treat you like mushrooms, keep you in the dark and throw horse manure on you, they're up to something.
Yeah, and that is true.
Yeah.
Why don't you go ahead and set this up with the Sheriff Glick when you called KJB and, kind of talk about, what was going on. I know that he was on time with Dave Chaffin on KJB. And how did it happen that you called up to talk to him and then the conversation?
Well, my wife called up first.
Okay.
All right. And
she's on there too?
Yes, she's on there.
Okay.
And she wants to know, why didn't you reply to my letter that I sent you on such and such a date over a year ago, or almost a year ago? And his answer was, the county attorney told him not to comply because there might be a lawsuit involved.
But why didn't somebody else reply, if not him? You know what I mean?
Well, see, that's the sort of thing that goes along with cover-ups, and I'm going to say it. This all smells like 3-day-old fish.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, it gets to trample itself after a while. That they're doing such a bad job, all right, in trying to stifle me and keep me from talking to the public, and the public doesn't even know what smart meters are. The majority of the public
they still don't
know they have them.
Yeah, till this day.
Yeah, and they don't know that they even have them. Well,
I'll tell you what I'm going to do is, at this point, I'm going to play Sheriff Glick, your conversation with him. How long do you think that might have been? Just a few minutes, maybe 10 minutes, maybe in the whole...
Oh, no, not even that much. They wouldn't even give me that much time. There was 2 calls. My wife called, and I called, and I tried to get him to answer certain questions, and there was long pauses, and even the last one, Dave had to finish his sentences because he couldn't answer the question about once the deputy found out I wasn't home, it was time for him to leave, and usually that's what happens. But he felt as though he needed. Well, why don't we listen to the disc, and then we'll know exactly what he said.
Okay, we'll go right there right now.
GAB as we come back with our special guest, Sheriff Danny Glick. And we have had a patient caller hold through the break, so we'll go right back to the phones. Good morning, you're on with the Sheriff in the Morning Zone.
Oh, good morning, Sheriff Glick. This is Irmtrude Miller. I thought I'd touch base with you this morning to find out why you've never called me back, as you have said. Was it a year ago that you would, after you spoke to the county attorney, to see whether or not he had issued papers to your department to violate my constitutional rights? When your department sent a deputy sheriff who forced me to let Cheyenne Fuel and Light workers in my house to install a smart meter and consequently destroy my health and well-being and quality of life with their action. Why did you not call me back?
Well, Ms. Miller, this is tough. I guess maybe I'm glad because Eric's been out here and talked about this, and I was hoping it would come in a different venue, but let's just talk about it. Ms. Miller, we can't force you to let the Cheyenne Light Fuel and Power in. I reviewed the case, and the case said that we were called on a standby, keep the peace. We were called by Cheyenne Light Fuel and Power to be there because they were concerned about just exactly what we're talking about this morning, some resistance on your part or the potential for assaultive type behavior and maybe even a witness. I can't answer that. I wasn't standing there. What I will tell you, Ms. Miller, is I was in Washington, D.C., and I'm sure you know this, when I got the call from Eric. And I was sitting at a national sheriff's conference, and as I always do, I answer my calls back home. And Eric said that this was happening. And my conversation with Eric at that time was, God, Eric, let them put it in for now and let's solve this with an attorney rather than them turn your power off. And I promised Eric at that moment, and I'll say it on the air with witnesses, I threatened that if they shut your power off, that I was going to throw somebody from BOPU in jail, and I didn't care who it was. And I would have done that, Ms. Miller. I know this has been a very harrowing experience, and I apologize for that. But I assure you, in following up with the deputies that were there, that they didn't force you to do this. And you know, perception, and you've probably listened, I know Eric has, and I know Eric is sitting there in the background listening too. And I want everybody to understand, perception is about 9/10 of what happens. And we have to walk a very fine line in law enforcement, because a lot of times when we show up on these, just our mere presence seems like it's force against whomever we're there visiting, not just you. And this isn't the first occasion that this has ever happened where it's been claimed that we forced somebody to do something. But
May
that
I
was a
just
senior
interrupt you
deputy.
for 1 second?
Yes, ma'am.
My husband at the time was in Walmart. When your deputy told me that I had to let the Cheyenne Fuel and Light workers in the house and install in the yard and install the smart meter, I asked your deputy to talk to my husband. And when I dialed the number in a cell in Walmart, which your deputy did, and your deputy told my husband that I had to let these people install the smart meters. Now, if that was not forcing me to, you explain to me what would be.
Ma'am, all I can tell you is what I followed up
I heard it in my own ears. I was standing right there, and I opened the door for him after he said, because my husband told me to. He said he does not want me to be arrested because the way it was put to him is I had to do that. I opened the door for your deputy sheriff, and we walked through my house and to let him out in the yard. So he could open the door for the yard door for the Cheyenne fuel light workers, and that was the end of it. From this day on, my health and my quality of life have been destroyed. That is why I was in the hospital several times, and I'm still in rehabilitation.
Ma'am, I apologize for that, and that's all I can do. And you asked me a direct question, why I couldn't or didn't call you back. If you'll also remember, shortly thereafter, I received a certified letter. As you might imagine, with what I do, I'm named in a lot of lawsuits. That certified letter pointed out to me that I was potentially going to be sued. And with that, I contacted the county attorney, and he warned me away from further contact. And, ma'am, that's hurtful for me, too, because although you and I don't know each other very well, your husband and I were friends, and I've lost that friendship, and Dave and I have talked about that off air quite often. And it's one of the things that comes with my job, but I assure you that I would never, ever do anything to harm you. And if that happened and there was force used, I would say that you need to get an attorney, and we discuss it as what I thought was going to happen through that certified letter. And it's a tragedy, and I apologize, but I just can't carry it any further, ma'am.
Well, have you ever held anybody accountable in your department for that?
Ma'am, the investigation was conducted, and the witnesses interviewed. There was the gentleman from Cheyenne Light, or BOPU, that was there, and the statements that we collected didn't point to the situation you're describing, and I'm not calling you a liar.
Well,
I would never do that.
I would think that you should be very careful and not going this way.
All right. Well, we appreciate your call, Ms. Miller, and I think the sheriff has answered as best he can, and we really do need to move on. So
thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for calling. All right, time for one more phone call. You're on the air. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Dave. Good morning, Sheriff. Eric here.
Hi, Eric.
Danny, first of all, in that packet I sent you, there was no threat of suing or anything like that. Let's get that clear. There was absolutely no threat of that. Second of all, when your deputy spoke to me over the cell phone and I was up in Walmart's, that was the time for him to leave. There was no more threat. And I don't have a record of violence. All right? So 4 men, three Cheyenne Light and Fuel Power workers, and a deputy sheriff going up against an elderly woman. Well, I call that cowardness. And I would like to see that so-called investigation. All right? Can I get a copy of that investigation? Can I?
I'm sitting here thinking, Eric, and I apologize for the hesitancy.
No,
it's not that I don't want you to see it.
There was no threat of violence. There was no threat of court action in that packet I sent you. It was just the facts of what took place. That's all that was.
Let me get with the county attorney and see what happens with it, Eric. That would be your first call.
To know, because once the deputy spoke to me on the phone, that was the time for him to vacate the premises and tell Cheyenne Light and Fuel and Power to go to a court action, to issue a summons. No one had a summons on that day.
All right, Eric, well, I got to let you go because I'm out of day, and I got one more break to go.
All right.
Dave, if I may.
Sure, real quick.
You know, and I apologize for this, but Eric, I invite you, as you always have and always will be, is contact me at my office. And you know, you've got a place here where you can tell everybody what the discussion was. And I think we can get this solved. I sure want to see it solved because I just don't like issues like this being out there.
Well, and we've been encouraging Eric to do that. So I'm glad that he heard that from you. And hopefully, Eric, you'll get with the sheriff and come to a resolution on this. And because I think it's important, and I think Sheriff's been open and honest with you on this. So, Sheriff, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it. Look forward to having you back again soon. And
Okay, Eric. So now we just listened to Danny Glick, and you know, after all this happened and all that's been said, what are your thoughts about the whole thing? You know, because, you know, is he still in contact with you with this whole thing? Or has he pretty much just let this drop?
No, I don't trust him as a insurer.
Yeah.
I don't trust him as an individual, all right? Because if he allowed them to do what they did to my wife, all right, which basically was to traumatize her, all right? My wife, once that day when I came home and to see your wife staring out the kitchen window, tears, shaking in unbelief that this could actually happen in this great country of ours, you know, she couldn't believe it. Either could I.
I guess what gets me about it, Eric, is, you know, just even like with Plan Cheyenne, I'm just throwing it out there. I can tell people here at work. I talked to some guy at work about Plan Cheyenne, and his people don't believe it. It's like, here you are, you're talking about this whole thing. Yeah. This happened to you.
Yes.
But how many people you talk to out there to like, well, you know, this and that, they throw it off.
Well, because you have the opposition. Well, Eric, why does Eric get a lawyer on the radio? We heard that many times from certain. Why don't you get a lawyer? Oh, he's beating a dead horse to death. No, I'm not. All right. They have just taken away Fourth Amendment rights.
Mm-hmm.
All right, by someone coming upon your property and demanding that you do something under threat.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now you can call it bullying. You can call it threat. All right. Now, if they came there with documents saying that you got to comply, no problem. I'll comply. I'm a good citizen.
Yeah.
But none of this took place. All right. Why was it so important to even say that I was the last holdout in 30,000 meters? That's what they claim. I was the only one out of 30,000.
And there's 50,000 plus people in Cheyenne.
Yeah.
So how come numbers aren't quite?
Well, I can say the numbers per household.
Yeah.
Right? That you know, if there's 50,000 or 60,000,
and that could be. I guess so.
Explain it.
Yeah.
But the whole idea is that, you know, why did this have to be done on a sly? Why did certain people come home to find out that they had a little tag on the door? We replaced your meter.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Why did M. Lee try to block them with his truck from leaving his yard? And when he asked to put the meters back in, they told him they can't. The meter's already broke.
Oh, it's already broke.
Yeah, you see that as a statement on in the news thing there.
Yeah.
All right. Why did several other things? They jumped over another person's fence, broke his fence. Why did that have to happen? Why did they have to do everything by a certain date? Well, if you get stimulus money and the orders are, you better use this by a certain date, well, you better comply.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You know, or else you lose the stimulus money.
Sure.
You know?
Well, you know, why don't you give some final thoughts on that, and then we'll talk about a few minutes with Plan Cheyenne.
Yeah.
Go ahead and mention just anything else you want to just mention with.
Well, you know, I look at it this way. You know, we have to fight to protect our constitutional rights.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and this is just the first step. You see, cap and trade. All right, and the reason why I addressed the documents to John Barrasso, because John Barrasso used to have a commercial on KGAD,
yeah,
stating that he is fighting backdoor cap and trade.
Yeah.
And when I approached him, because I could not get anywhere with this guy down in Washington, his name is I got it in the document here. I'll have to look it up.
Yeah.
After he had spoken to Cheyenne Light Fuel and Power, he could not get straight answers from them, and he told me so over the phone. And then when they had the Tea Party Express come through, where John Barrasso showed up, and I asked him, John, how come you never did anything about my complaint? And he didn't know anything about smart meters.
Yeah.
So I do gather that, you know, he has staff working down there, and they sort of like push certain things aside. This is important. This is important. This goes on the back burner and whatnot.
Yeah.
I do realize that, you know, there's a lot to handle. But the whole idea is that he told me to contact his office here in Cheyenne. I said, well, I went directly to your office, and I spoke to I can't think of his name. It's in the documents, and he told me that you've been advised about what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
He says, I didn't know anything like that was going on, and I said, well, this is about cap and trade,
Yeah.
a.k.a. cap and tax.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was speaking with with Senator Barrasso for a while, and then another person came and he wanted to speak to him, so I let him go. So I let that basically go at that point,
Mhm.
all right? And then my next meeting with an elected official, was in Enzi's office.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't show up. He had another appointment. He was here in town, but he had another appointment that
Okay.
day. But the person's... well, it's not in there, but it's been recorded
Mhm.
by Brad Harrington.
Okay.
All right, but the whole idea is that if we allow our constitutional rights to be broken, and when you have an apparatus that can come into your house and spy
Oh,
in
yeah.
your house,
Yeah.
because that's what it is.
Yeah.
If they can control your appliances, all right, one day the television will be looking at you
Mhm.
while you're looking at the
True.
television. But this whole thing, and of course, you've heard recently how they are spying on American citizens.
Oh, yeah, NSA and
we don't
whatnot.
know, and we don't know exactly how they're doing it. It's either through the computer, telephone conversation,
Drones, yeah.
we have no idea.
Yeah.
Why is that necessary to spy on your own people unless you have intentions of doing something with that information?
And I think we do see a lot of things that are being intended for us for the future that most people have no clue. And if they really had an understanding, they probably would stand up for their rights.
Would I collect information on potato farming if I'm not a potato farmer?
Yeah.
And don't intend to be a potato farmer.
True.
So what good would that information be to me?
Wouldn't be good at all.
No, it wouldn't be good. Would I buy a truck, all right, to deliver potato chips, all right? Would I buy an 18-wheeler to deliver potato chips? No. I'd buy the 18-wheeler to deliver the potatoes to the potato chip factory.
Sure.
All right? That's the difference of information and what you use it for and how you use it and what you're going to do with it.
Mhm.
What your study is going to be. So when we talk about them intruding into our homes, that's a Fourth Amendment right.
Yeah.
That they're breaking.
Well, in talking about that, let's maybe in 10 minutes try to maybe talk a little bit about Plan Cheyenne.
Okay.
Time goes by so fast. Okay, so we were in this fight with Plan Cheyenne. This was going on even before I knew what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe walk us through Plan Cheyenne from the start to the middle, and now what's going on.
Well, see, Plan Cheyenne was something that came in going back a few years ago, all right, that the public really wasn't aware of what was going on,
Mm-hmm.
all right. It is part of Vision 2020, which goes back to the 90s.
Sure.
All right. From there, it took on a new name. All right. Every time the public gets wise to one name,
Yep.
they change the name.
Yep.
All right. This is a Ickley thing.
Yep.
That this is the way we do it. Now, as you know, when they started talking about, say, global warming, well, people, they don't believe that, so let's change it to climate change.
Yep.
See?
Yeah.
That's the way they do things. So Vision 2020 went from Plan Cheyenne, UDC codes, all right, and went from 2020 to UDC codes to Plan Cheyenne.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let me tell you something. The NEC electric code was the best code in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we need to have an international code? I mean, Germany doesn't even use the same voltage we use.
Yeah, well, true.
Yeah.
I mean, even where I work at, everything is being now UN numbers on everything now.
Yeah. Why is that necessary to take away the sovereignty of this nation and to bring us down to everybody else?
Make us slaves.
Yeah. Well, we're the greatest nation in the world, and
Yeah.
the world knows that.
Yep.
But who's behind this? I don't know who's behind this.
Yeah.
You know, we can say, well, Obama, but Obama.
He's a playwright
he's
from everybody else.
Yeah, he's a puppet. You know, I mean, who's the puppeteers?
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Who's the puppeteers?
He's the front man for the guys.
Yeah.
Whether it could be Bilderbergers, it could be the Rockefellers, or whatever. You can name multiple, and then probably goes deeper than we
the
could
New
even.
World Order,
Yeah.
Vision 2020 now is changed to Map 2020.
Yeah.
All these things have one effect on, and what it is to do is to destroy our Constitution. You got to remember, the United States Constitution is probably the second greatest document ever put to print.
True.
The first I'm saying is the Bible.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
The first I'm saying is the Bible.
Yep.
And I'm not just saying that because I'm Judeo-Christian, all right? Because I am.
Yeah.
All right? But that was the document that you got to have some belief. You got to have some hope. And for those people who don't believe in the Bible or even the Ten Commandments, if you don't believe in the Ten Commandments, there's still 10 great sentences to live by.
Yeah.
For decency.
True.
No matter what.
If you don't have any laws to live by, then you're become.
That's right. And that was the laws of God.
Sure.
All right? Not man. All right? And when the framers of the Constitution put together the Constitution, they said that these laws, these rules put forth by you, we the people, all right, is yours to protect and hold on to.
Yep.
And that's exactly what I do and believe in. When they knocked on my door and demanded that I should take this, and I said, no, I don't want any part of this, because I explained to them what I got going on physically. I have Crohn's disease, plus I got a titanium mechanism in my back and a stainless steel disc in my neck.
Yep.
And my wife is not too well either, you know. I don't want to sound like, well, I'm fabricating something that doesn't exist. You know, these are the famous words out of the news media is that these people, ultra right wingers and stuff like that, they're conspirators and all that. No, you don't have to be a conspirator to protect your constitutional rights.
True.
All you have to do is be a good citizen.
Well, and I even talked to a guy at work today, and just mentioning about Plan Cheyenne. He says, "Oh, I don't want to get involved with that and this and that." And I'm like, "Well,
that's complacency."
But the thing is, it's coming to everybody's going to have to deal with this here eventually.
Yeah.
Well, here's an idea. We know somebody up from Warland, Wyoming, and remember that news story came through about a couple weeks ago about the U.S. government is giving out 13,000 military / tanks for every city in the nation or something like that. I don't know if you remember seeing that. And they said, we don't know why, but they just got this armored tank up in Warland, and they're just parading around, and everybody's like going, that's the most stupidest thing. But I'm like going, well, if you guys understood that Department of Homeland Security is stockpiling all this ammo, all these different things that are coming down, you realize that they're trying to convene upon you and make you a slave.
Well, here's another interesting thing to look at. All right, now we're just getting over the Boston bombing.
Yeah.
All right. Now, to show you where the public's mindset is, that they were praising their city being locked down, houses searched for one person.
Yep.
For one person.
Yep.
All right. Oh, you did a wonderful job. Homeland Security, the Sheriff's Department,
and they're praising them.
And they're praising them.
Yeah.
I said, my God, are you that complacent? Are you that? I don't want to accuse people of being not intelligent, But the fact is that they're not up to date on what is going on right in front of them.
Yep.
Now, if you go back to the 20s and the 30s in Nazi Germany,
Yeah.
all right, you will see the same things done over and over again. First, no one Jewish was allowed to have a gun. They
Yep.
took them away. Then anyone who belonged to the other party,
Yep.
right, Socialist Party, you're not allowed to have guns.
Yep.
Then it came down to only ones that are allowed to have guns are Aryan Germans. All right? And then that was restricted to shotguns, basically, and hunting rifles.
Yeah.
But you see, if we don't learn history and learn from that why the framers of the Constitution sought to put in, by demand of the people, the Second Amendment.
Yep.
All right. Basically, that was to keep. They were saying at the time that's to keep people like us, elected officials, from taking over.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's that.
Well, what was an elected official out in Maryland? She was a lady that actually the judge told her you couldn't pray, but she still did it anyway. And everybody's like, even the lawyer for Hoover, the humanist or something like that. She said it's just a simple thing. All she has to do is just comply and not pray, and we'll be fine. But like she said, if I don't pray, then we're going to put ourselves into a communist situation more and more.
Yep. And that's what they want. Over all of our courts, Supreme Court, it says in God we trust.
Yep.
On our money, it says in God we trust.
Yep.
What do you think that's there for? All right? Is there to let the world know that we are a Judeo-Christian country.
True.
And the thing is that I can tell you, I'm Roman Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
I am definitely Judeo-Christian.
Yeah.
All right? Because Jesus Christ, all right, was a rabbi.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm following his principles.
Mm-hmm.
I'm following what he was told to convey to us by his Father.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it was the beginning of a new time. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we were taught to turn the other cheek, but that doesn't mean to be physically beaten up on one side and then turn to the other side and get physically beaten up on that side.
True. Let me pose a question to you, Eric, as we're winding down here. Why is it that most churches in America are not standing up for the rights that were God-given rights?
Well, I think it's because of intimidation.
Mm-hmm.
All right. The possibility, if they get too loud and too boisterous, all right, the federal government will find ways to say take away that tax exempt in the future.
True. 501c3.
Yeah. And if you take that away from most churches, they will fail.
Yeah.
Right. I was surprised to go on Google Earth and look up the first Catholic school I went to, Holy Rosary in Brooklyn, because I was born in Brooklyn, but raised in the South Bronx. It's boarded up. And so I called my older brother and I said, how come it happened? Because he was also a fireman in that area. He was a captain in the fire department in that area. All right? And he says, Eric, I got news for you. They not only boarded up Holy Rosary, they also boarded up 16 other schools.
Wow.
And I said, well, why do you think that happened? He says, well, you got to remember, the big thing was, all right, if you take down the Holy Church of Rome, you take down entire Christian religion.
Mm-hmm.
All right? And I said to him, well, yeah, that's right. And I said, now I see where you're heading with this conversation. I told him that that's the reason why they're digging up all this information on pedophile priests and whatnot. All right? I can imagine in other religions there are pedophiles too.
Yeah.
They're human.
Yeah. Yeah.
They got human frailties. They got human, it's wrong, yeah, but you can change, you can get rid of them, all right? But you don't have to get rid of the church.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he says you're right on that one. You're perfectly right.
Yeah.
But that's how. If they can get rid of one, they can get rid of all of it in one shot.
True. Well, I wish we had more time.
Yeah.
Eric, is there anything else you want to just share in your heart to the people out there before we go?
Well, I would say get involved, get on a computer, get on the internet, and look up smart meters.
Mm-hmm.
The problems with smart meters.
Mm-hmm.
And you will learn a whole lot about these things, not only health-wise, but prying into your privacy, all right? And you have heard in the past 4 or 5 months how government is spying on us and even spying on the Chancellor of Germany.
I know.
You know? Well, come on, they're supposed to be our allies. We're not supposed to be doing that.
Yeah, it's not, and I can't remember, it's not Nancy Pelosi, but it's the other senator out there. And
Barbara Boxer.
Yeah, she couldn't believe.
Yeah.
But it's okay for them to spy on you, but not on her type thing.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm telling people,
Yeah.
you know, bring patriotic values back into your home. Bring religion back into your home. Do what you have to do to make this a productive country, because we're slowly becoming a non-productive country.
True.
With all the people unemployed,
Yep.
Food stamps, free cell phones and everything. This is exactly what a socialist government wants. All right, you don't use the word communist, you use the word socialist. You know, it's like we got fancy names for everything. You know, I even argued once on the county commissioners when they were trying to make the TP into a pornography store. They referred to it as an adult bookstore. I got up there and I told the truth, and I said, look, you give it a fancy name, but let's call it what it is. It's a pornography store.
Yeah.
All right? I said, if you're having a social gathering and you run out of liquor, you don't go down to the adult beverage store, because it says right outside on the store, it's a liquor store.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
You know?
True.
You don't you don't change the name to make it sound good.
Yeah.
Right? So we're being taught every day the good, fairly names, make things sound good. But what it's doing is corrupting our minds. We're not thinking anymore. All right? We were once the greatest thinkers in the world, but now in education, 27, 28, we used to be number one.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. I'm saying to the people, all right, to wrap this up, is that we the people, as long as it says that above our Constitution, the preamble to the Constitution, all right, we are in charge, all right, not some elected official, all right. We elect officials to go do our bidding. You got to study them, and you have to keep in mind that your children's education is going to be on what they decide to teach you from Washington. Can't have that. Common Core, forget about it. If you don't think your kid is getting a good education and you can't afford private school, well, outside of your public school education, you can educate them at home, like my mother did.
True. Yeah. Eric, it was great having you on tonight.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much.